All right, there we go. Okay, here's our flash mob that we've been having every night at 6 p.m. here, which is so fun.
Yeah. Is it the same people or more people are joining in?
It just depends every night, kind of what people have.
Uh-huh.
Everybody, as they have time for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's different songs. So they'll put out, there's like, we have a schedule that it's mostly in WhatsApp and Facebook that we've been connecting with each other. And so somebody will hear from one Facebook group something, and then they'll just start sharing it with their other Facebook groups so that like we're all really connected to each other too.
So it's like a flash mob, huh?
It's so fun.
But it just happens every 6 p.m. now, huh?
It's so awesome. And it's beautiful because it will be this like amazing, this like amazing, beautiful.
Wow. Is that guy a professional singer in Italy?
He should be if he's not.
Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
So this is kind of what we have going on here, which is really, really beautiful and nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it helps us to sort of stay connected when we can't really, connect with each other physically. So it's beautiful.
Yeah. So how long have you been in Rome, Italy?
So we've been living here for 3.5 years now. So we'll be here for 4 years in total, and then we're moving on.
You're going to leave Rome.
Yeah, we're leaving. We're going to Ethiopia next. So we'll.
Oh, you're going to go to Ethiopia next. You got an exciting life.
You know what? Everybody has an exciting life, actually.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah. So tell us what is a day in Rome, Italy, right? Because now we just hear on the news that Italy is actually the second, country with the most problems and the contaminations and the deaths, and so it seems like a really bleak situation. And that's why I thought that it'll be fun for us to hear a little bit about your lifestyle and how you all used to cope in the situation, and what are some of your thoughts and ideas on how to cope.
Yeah, so I think that this is a beautiful question, actually. So we're about a week and a half into a full quarantine here in Rome. Up north, they've been doing it for longer, but here in Rome, we're a week and a half in. And that means, I think, the kids have been out of school for almost 2 weeks now. And then they announced a full shutdown quarantine after that. And that for us means that we are pretty much in our houses. Nothing is open except for the grocery stores and the pharmacies, and the hospitals and medical facilities. There are some people that are working, so like government workers are still going and taking care of like government business, and making sure that everything's okay. They, I believe, just shut down post offices yesterday, so there's no postal delivery. There was for a while restaurant delivery from some select restaurants. I'm not sure if they're doing that anymore or not. So everything's really, really shut down, and they're asking for people to mostly stay inside of their houses, with the exception of going outside, for some exercise during the day, and going to grocery stores and pharmacies. So those are kind of the exceptions that they have asked for people to honor. And so that means, that we are in our houses a lot. So I learned actually while we were in Hawaii some lessons when I was at home and, being just a mom. I learned what it's like when we're all on top of each other in the house a lot of the time, you know, because that's what mom life is actually like. And so I learned some strategies then to deal with this. And for me, you know, I was a full-time stay-at-home mom for at least 6.5 years. And then even then, you know, my business is from, I can work a lot from the house. So I have a lot of experience with how to handle this sort of a situation. And one of the things that I found is really, really important is to think about the short term and the long term things that you need to do to handle it. Because this is, we were kind of talking about this earlier. This will most likely be a little bit longer than people think it's going to be. So we're going to be here for probably at least a month in Rome. And that's a long time, you know, that's a long time to just like, it's great for the first few days to like sit on your couch and watch Netflix all the time and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then it gets old and people get cabin fever. So some long-term strategies to cope with it is I go for a run every morning. You can tell I'm in my running gear. I just got back from a run. So I go for a run every single morning, and I try to go by myself so that I can have some space by myself to kind of process through, you know, everything that's going on. I try to take my kids out at least once a day so that they can also have that kind of energy release as well that they need to. We have a schedule, you know, that we've made for the kids, and they've participated in that as well. And making sure that it's good. I want to be connected with people, you know, and
Yeah, some of us are people person, you know. It's kind of hard to be isolated from people.
so hard. Well, I mean, we know from like scientific research that babies die. Babies die if they're isolated, and people go insane if they're put in isolation. You know, like we are relational beings. You know, we are made to be in relationship with each other, and so for it's really important to find the outlets and the positive ways to be able to still relate with people. So like this is beautiful, you know, like
Yeah,
it's so
yeah,
nice, right? And so it's
yeah,
so nice to even, and it's really cool to talk with people around the world as well and kind of
yeah,
share our stuff. So
yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, how is the store situation like? Over here, we have a lot of people who are beginning to get worried, you know, with the food and with some of the services. Are there still a lot of inventory in Italy?
so
Do you have
something
any
that
problems with that?
something my mom used to always say was, what's the first guide to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? What's the first rule in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? And it's don't panic, right? It's stay calm. Like that's the first one. So for us, I think that you guys are actually, there's an opportunity to recognize the gift that you guys, that in Hawaii you've been given of being sort of one of the last places to go into quarantine for this, you know? Um, and I think that one of the gifts that can come from that is that you can look elsewhere and see some of the things that have happened elsewhere and prepare yourself for that. So here in Italy, it was really surprising when we went on full lockdown in Rome. So like one of my kids came home from school at 1:30 and there was nothing about a full lockdown. My other kids then came home at 4:30 and they brought all of their books home because they were like, we think a lockdown's coming. And then that night at I think 9 or 10, they actually announced the lockdown. So it was fast. It was a very quick progression.
Mm,
And so at the beginning, there were people that went to the stores and really bought a lot of stuff. I remember especially like the first night I went to the store and it was very cleaned out. And then the next day I went and it was all completely restocked. You know, it was all completely restocked. All the fruits and vegetables, everything was there. And it's been consistently very, very, very much like that. I mean, really, honestly, there's been an abundance of food, so that's not been a problem at all for us.
wow, wow. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. Of course, from outside, you know, for many years, actually through the decades, we have pretty much said that, remember, we're living on a very teeny island out the middle of nowhere, and we import 90% of our food. So we have got to save our farmlands and support the farmers and have food sustainability, and all those to me is provident living.
Yeah.
And I feel that, as an island or as a chain of islands, that we really need to think of it that way, that we have to deal with what we have. I mean, we have to deal with the cards that are given to us, and the card is that we're a little island, and we need to at least ensure that we have sustainable farming and food in case something like this happened.
Yeah,
We
my husband and I, we've talked about that, about Italy, actually, specifically,
uh
because Italy doesn't export a lot. A lot of its food and stuff that it grows here,
uh
they'll keep in the country as well. And we've said we think that that's actually a really cool way of going about it. It doesn't work super well. Like, their economy is not necessarily that great because they don't, participate as much in this import export stuff that's going on. And it has long-term good ramifications of being able to really support, themselves when they need it.
right,
So we're having no problems with food here at all, at all.
right, and that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. In fact, there was a funny. Well, I thought it was funny that the governor has said that, well, if people start hogging, they're going to have to call in the National Guards. I thought, oh no, that's a little bit overkill. All he probably has to do is just tell the stores, Costco's and Walmart's, to say, hey, please limit the amount of items you sell. I mean, that's probably a more effective way than say, hey, I'm going to call the Coast Guard on you, or National Guard, or whatever it is. But poor guy, he's trying to do the best he can, right?
Yeah, it's hard. We moms know what it's like to be in that position where we're like, don't eat all of the food in the house. Okay. I just went shopping. You cannot eat. No milk, no more milk. You get no more milk. Like, we know what that's like. It's hard. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and two. So right now we have, people are kind of pretty much asked to stay in-house, and just not go to public places, and don't go to gatherings of more than 50 people. And yet the big complaint we have now is that they're saying, wait, but the airport is not closed, the docks is not closed. So it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. I think sometimes you just have to make the hard decisions, and if people second guess you, well, then let them second guess you.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, like sometimes when we have our tsunami or hurricane, if you kind of call it too soon, and if kind of nothing happens, then they're saying, well, look, that was overreach.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but I think in this case here, just based on our modern way of living, and we're so connected with people coming from all over the world. We're just so much commingling, and we pretty much know the basic evolution of a virus, right? So I think it's safe to start saying that, hey, let's shut things down and try to contain it as much as we can, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how is the mood there? I mean, among your people and your neighbors, are they worried that it may get worse?
So this is a very timely question that you're asking this. Um, Something that I have kind of been chatting with people about in the last few days, especially, is, you know, um, if you look at history and you look at the numbers in history, the thing that's killed people the most is not sickness or viruses, it's people. So people killing people is really actually what has killed a lot more people than viruses in the end. And so this is a time we're starting to get to that point here in Rome. It's kind of a pressure cooker, you know, when we're sitting at home in our houses, there's a lot of and there's a lot of emotions that are going on because people are starting to realize this is a long time thing. You know, this is not going to just go away immediately. It's going to be
Yeah.
something that we have to actually process through the emotions that are sitting inside of us. We can't just pretend like they're not there. And so there's a lot of emotions of frustration. There's a lot of there's definitely anger that's out there. There's sadness, there's fear. I wrote a blog last week that was addressing the fear in Rome and kind of how to look at it and how to transform it into something that might be helpful. And I think it's something that we need to think about because this is what happens when we can't kind of get away from it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like a
Right.
lot of times in life
All
we
about
can
control.
we can like just go, right? We can just leave,
Yeah.
get away from whatever. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden we're sitting in it, you know, we're really,
Yeah.
really sitting here. And it's such an awesome opportunity to start really growing in our relationships with each other. And how do we stay in relationship with each other? How do we stay in relationship with ourselves? You know, what do we do during this time to process through all of this stuff? How do we deal with hard conversations? Because hard conversations are happening even now, because nobody really knows the perfect way to deal with there. I don't actually think there is a perfect way to deal with this.
Right. Right. Every family is different. Every person is different.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's really important at this point to really, so your question is such a good question because we're a week and a half in and it's starting to, there's a lot of kind of pressure that's happening. And so it's an invitation to really look at ourselves individually and say, what do I do to deal with this? And what are my skill sets that I have in relationship with other people and with myself to kind of deal with this and look at this situation from that sort of helpful perspective, the empowering perspective.
Yeah, I think so. And I think for some of us, you know, maybe our income is not in jeopardy. For us out here in Hawaii, you know, because this is a very heavily based tourism. And of course, when people don't come, there's no people at the restaurants, and poor thing, the restaurants have to cut back, and so hotel and this and that. And so it's more stressful for people whose income are being compromised right now, you know, and those who are maybe not used to taking care of children at home now maybe you have to work and then the kids are left home all by themselves. And also, you know, the good news for us here in Hawaii is that we have a lot of good people, good clubs, good organizations, and just people are just stepping up to say, hey, you know, I've got this, or hey, I'm going to the store, what can I pick up for you? And so it's really been nice to see all that. I mean, it's my personal belief that every time something bad happens, you can always see more good arising. And we've seen it here in Hawaii, and I'm sure that you probably see in Italy. I mean, that flash mob music is just such a fun thing to see.
It is amazing. Well, and this is I feel like I actually know my neighbors here way better than I've ever known them ever before, you know? And so yeah, it is. It is, and I could not agree with you more. There's always a perspective of finding the gifts, no matter what. Like no matter what is happening, what are the gifts that are being given to us right now? And I think that there are so many gifts that are offered right now of building relationships, you know, really having the time to build those relationships, build relationships with your kids, you know, and the neighborhood again too. So we're at the point where we cannot gather, you know, like we kind of, I don't even take things over to people's houses at this point. Like it's really, we're really like really doing the distancing thing. And when I go for runs, like I am socially distancing myself, you know, like there's a lot of social distancing that's going on. And so, so I think it's really interesting to find what does this mean for me? And I then get the opportunity to look at myself and say, how do I deal with stuff when I'm in a totally socially distant, you know, place, and how can I grow in that way? There's
Right.
always a gift, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. You know, we've heard a lot from the news, and you know, it seems that everything is doom and gloom coming out from Italy. You know, but it's nice to hear that individually, as in families, they are coping and they're doing well. And I'm sure there are a lot of other issues that we could talk, you know, right now, but maybe we could save it for another time.
Yeah, definitely.
And then maybe we can control this program better than.
We'll make this live stream happen. It's gonna happen for us.
Yeah, it has to happen for us. I mean, the first time we did it, it just worked so smoothly, right?
I know.
It was like, wow, this is really easy. And then it just that the system got its mind of its own, and it's like one thing after another.
Maybe this is a good analogy for life, right? Like there are times when it just works out so smoothly and easily, and times when it just doesn't, you know, what do you do?
Right. So maybe the next time we do it, it will come easy to us again. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and we will keep in touch and stay well, and share more stories with us on how you cope the next time.
All right, sounds good. Will do. I send you much love from
Thank
Italia.
you. Thank you. Take care.
Yep, you too.